Welcome back, Pod People. My guest today is Peter Hatch, the writer-director of Baleful, which is a sort of surreal nightmare film that I really got a kick out of watching. This is one of the most unusual and interesting films I've seen in a while, which I really enjoyed. I think my experience of watching it was probably pretty similar to the experience of watching Skinamarink for people who really enjoyed that movie. It also reminded me of Eraserhead and of the Babadook in that a lot of people, including myself, have described the Babadook as sort of the most famous example of the real monster is trauma films. But I would also say that in the Babadook, the real monster is sleep deprivation. And that's a very major theme in Baleful as well. Um, Baleful is really interesting to me in that uh, I didn't really know what was going on most of the time. And indeed, I think pretty much the entire way through, I was very confused, and I did not finish the movie going, okay, now I understand. I finished the movie going, I'm still not clear on what levels of reality we're operating on here. Uh, which is the kind of thing that can be really frustrating and unsatisfying, but I didn't feel that way when watching Baleful. I found myself really swept up in it and curious to see where everything was going, even if I didn't understand how we got there. So tell me a bit about how you came up with the idea for the structure of the film like that, and why make something this unusual and not a more traditional, straightforward narrative.
Well, thanks, Thomas. Thanks for the question. You're actually, I think I told you this. You're the first person who's outside of the cast and crew to watch it. The very first. So this is a
Yeah.
very litmus test for me here. But the structure. I always think about structure in movies, and with this film, we have a YouTube channel called Deformed Lunchbox, where we have tons and tons of short films. And that's kind of how we got our start. And so we almost looked at this feature film as almost like a little bit of an extension of what we've been doing with the channel, and almost like a meta commentary on the channel itself. Not that you need to know anything about the channel, but it's just kind of it's kind of our style to be a little bit like an anthology, I want to say. So that's why the film has tons of different characters and tons of different places that they are. And the other truth of it, I mean, just kind of two answers. On one hand, on a creative level, I want to just kind of pack it full of stuff. Different characters, they're passing this kind of curse through each other, and they're kind of connected, and it's kind of a mystery. And is it all in his head? You don't really fully know. But on the more, I want to say on the more technical side, it really was a more feasible film to make, because I just couldn't. We shot for 41 days, which is a lot for an indie film.
Yeah.
And I just knew that it would be, for one, I didn't want to fall into that trap of, it's a low budget indie film. We have one actor in one location or two actors in one house. Like, that makes me feel bored and full of like boredom already. Like, it doesn't sell me. And the other thing was that I knew you've seen the film, some of the stuff we put the actors through. And I worked with all these actors before. That's how I knew we could put them through some of that stuff. Like, I just don't think I could have pushed them to be a full protagonist for the whole movie. Like, so it was kind of like, hey, we can film for like 5 to 10 days with some of these actors, and we're gonna do some crazy stuff. But it was kind of just a way to push a lot of different people in different directions. And the other thing too is, if you want people to die in a movie, you have to have lots of characters. So it actually was really organic. We had a Kickstarter about, I want to say, a little over a year ago, for a slasher film, kind of like a found footage slasher film called Serial Man. And it failed its goal miserably, like absolutely miserably. Barely got 10%. And so the lead actor from that and I were like, well, let's let's just film stuff and put it into a movie. And we just kind of went into it very like cerebrally. We're like, let's just film a creepy scene. And so we started off with filming the opening scene where it's the character sitting in the chair watching the TV that's gone into like the off broadcast mode, and his throat is slashed and he's got a saw on the floor. And we just kind of filmed that one scene as like a teaser, and then we actually just kind of built it from there. Like we never there's no script for the film. It was
Oh,
never
interesting.
written that way. Yeah. So after that first bit, we're like, this is really cool. It's got a vibe. We actually had a different version of that intro that we tested, and kind of we had like a floating camera, and people were like, that's a little cheesy. And so we kind of designed it around this one little scene. And then we're like, well, what happened to this guy? What if he goes to a therapist? And what do we learn about this nightmare he's been living in? And then we just kind of just built it from there. And at some point early, I don't have it with me right now, but I have this piece of paper that's like a circle, where I have like the circle of characters. So it actually, well, I mean, it's a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but it's kind of like you'll see how all the characters are passing it amongst each self and back to themselves. And it's kind of this. It's a weird structure. It totally is.
Yeah,
Like it's challenging. There's no protagonist. There's no real singular goal. A little different.
yeah. And for the record, this is typically a full spoilers podcast with the idea that we um this is intended as a sort of like director's commentary sort of thing on like
Cool.
you watch the movie and go, oh, I want to learn more about that, and then you listen to this.
Okay,
And
cool.
I do want to expose people to films that they would not have heard of otherwise, but
Hmm.
ideally what I would like is to get people to go, okay, I know what Thomas's tastes are like. I know that if he's interviewing somebody, he liked the movie. I'll go check out the movie, read the description at least, and see if it interests me. Check out the movie, then listen to the episode.
Cool.
So, not that I think there's much you could really spoil in this,
True.
because
Yeah.
although I care about spoilers much less than a lot of people do, so I never get
There's no
upset about
big
that kind of
reveal.
thing.
It's not like his mother's the killer. There's
Yeah,
no that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If anything, I'd say that the closest thing to a twist that there is in this is that there is not a twist. Like there's no yeah, like you said, there's no reveal that causes everything to make sense. It just continues to not make sense throughout the entire
Yeah.
uh thing.
Like a nightmare. And yeah. And then you know what? I'm glad you mentioned Skinamarink, because that was a big inspiration for me. I actually spoken to Kyle Edwards. He's another
Oh,
Canadian. Yeah, he's a fellow Canadian. And when I saw that movie, I was like, wow, like we don't have to be restricted by these molds we think we do. And we can make
yeah.
vibes. We can really make a movie with atmosphere and vibes first, and it doesn't have to be the same structure we're used to. So thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, yeah. Skinamarink is a movie that when I watched it, it didn't do a ton for me, though it might if I rewatch it. But I really loved that it got made and that it got as much attention as it did, because I love it when people experiment with film, and it's fine if not every experiment lands for every person. I'd rather have, a million tiny budget indies than, another two or three gigantic budget mainstream films. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, this very much evokes the worst kind of feeling in a nightmare for me, which is that sort of looping, can't quite tell what's going on, but this feeling of dread and of like we've been here before. Um, so was this inspired by like actual nightmares that you had, or were you just sort of aiming for that vibe?
Well, I was aiming for that vibe, but also the theme of the movie really is. I mean, I never like to be a guy who's like, "Here's the theme." I like when people watching to take their own stuff out of it, and so people kind of have taken their own things out of it. But for me, the movie the theme is disassociation, and just in not knowing what's real, and disassociating from your life and from your relationships and from you not knowing what's real. And actually, about a year ago when we were making the movie, I was I was working on another movie that was all overnights, And so we were filming from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And at this time, also, I was going through a breakup. I was moving, like my whole life was kind of changing. And I was the truth is, I was living in a house where my ex-girlfriend had left, but she took all the furniture with her. So I was like I was like sitting on a lawn chair in this big house by myself. Like I had my TV and my lawn chair. I was just playing Zelda, and I had like no furniture or nothing. And so I slept on an air mattress. Anyways, I won't get into my sad life, but I was like disassociating hard. Like I didn't know what was real. And I would keep waking up and being like, whoa, I'm not in bed. I'm not in my place. Like it's the middle of the day. And I actually like had a lot of trouble sleeping. And so like a lot of the the monologues and things like or things I just wrote when I was really tired. So I'd like kind of like write these
Huh.
long monologues, and then we'd shape it for the character. And so there's a lot of that going on in this movie. And so and then there's the character of Martin and his mother, like the black gentleman, and because we don't say his name in the movie. And he
I was gonna say I don't know any of the characters' names.
yeah, okay. So his whole thing, I mean, it's a little bit of a play on the movie Memento, but he has like no memory of what's going on. He's relying on his set of rules with his calendar and his notepad, like relying on these systems. And then we have the relationship couple, Rob and Rachel, where she doesn't know if he's going to be nice or not. And she's not sure if he loves her, and she's not sure what he's going to say. And she's like on eggshells, but also it's just like that's kind of a reality people live through as well, with like not knowing mostly how their husband is going to react when they get home. So everyone's got these like forms of disassociation. And there's also Tom, the kind of guy who's smoking weed all the time on his computer, and he's just kind of like I've been in that mode before too, where I've been in editing mode and I'm just like on my computer all the time, and you lose track of time. And so I was trying to draw on all these parallels of like disassociating from reality, from routine, and kind of trying to draw into that as a form of I don't want to say trauma, but a form of like a state of being that's uncomfortable. So
Okay.
that was kind of my motivation for all this. And I think it kind of, the whole movie kind of represents that. Even in the end, like you said, it doesn't really give you this big answer. So it kind of in the end is a little bit of like you're still disassociated at the end. Like nothing really gives you any of that satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, I feel like uh we become more disassociated as the movie goes on. That when it starts and it's like, okay, we're in a therapy session, the guy's saying like, okay, well, I know I'm awake right now, even though when I'm asleep sometimes I think that I'm awake, but and which is a sensation that I'm familiar with, of like, oh, am I awake or dreaming? You can convince yourself that you're doing one or the other when you're asleep. When you're actually awake, it feels so obvious.
Yeah.
And then it just gets less and less reliable, really, really fast.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I like to think the movie, like I have these two kind of opposite spectrums of what I think the movie is. And on the very literal spectrum, it's like a time traveling demon who possesses them. You know what I mean? And then on the other spectrum, it's really like it's meta. It's like he thinks he's awake, but he's not. He's not even a real person. He's a character. And
Yeah.
we, the audience, are kind of like, are the reason this is happening to them. It's like, why is this happening to these people? It's because we're watching and we're enjoying it, and we want to watch these people go through this stuff. And
Yeah, that leads into the sort of meta angle that the movie takes at times with the use of the video cameras,
Mhm.
where when the video camera motif first started, I was like, oh, okay, there's going to be a reveal that like there's someone who's doing this to them and is recording them, and that's like the point of all this. And then after a bit, I was like, okay, no, that's not going to happen. Something else with the cameras. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm the one with the camera who's doing this to them, who's making this happen, because I'm, in a more literal sense, you are, but in as the viewer, like I'm the reason that all of this is happening is because is so that someone can point a camera at it and then amuse me. Um, I assume pretty much all of that was intentional, but
Well, like I said, where there's almost two lines of thinking. On one, there are in the movie you do see people holding the camera. You see characters who are like, let's call possessed with the camera. So it's almost like, well, maybe they're all on this. They are physically carrying that camera. But on the other side, we found with the camera, it makes the scene, it gives the film a sense of reality where
Hmm.
when you're composed shots and they're 16:9 and it's kind of like lit and set up, it can be cinematic in a way. But then when you go to that VHS, which was a VHS camcorder, and you're in 4:3 or 1:1, it's like a very it breaks this wall in a way that makes it feel like, well, no, this isn't a movie. This is real. So yeah, but what, like you said, there is an element where like when you watch it, you are the person filming these people. You are the viewer. This only exists because you're watching it. I mean, I'm interested to know what people think. It was very like cerebral experience making the movie. So I don't have any definitive answers. Like I have kind of I like to say that I make movies as an exploration, not as an answer. So in my mind, it's like I have my own theories about what it means. But I'm interested to know what other people feel about it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely felt like when the camera came into play, it made me feel more voyeuristic in that, like, when I'm just watching a movie and I'm watching the fictional characters, it's like, okay, that's a normal experience for me to watch a movie and to watch fictional characters. But then to have the characters like notice that there's a camera pointed at them and freak out about it and feel anxious about the fact that they're being recorded makes me really aware that, like, okay, uh anytime I watch a movie, it's a much more intimate experience than you would get with just a random stranger like that. You see into their lives, you see them sleeping, you see their reactions to these traumatic events. Uh, and that's all just considered normal typically. But then as soon as the characters are directly reacting to that, it really throws your perspective off and forces you to look at things in a new way. Um, And I kept finding myself thinking that, like, there are so many things in this movie that could have gone poorly, that could have pulled me out of the moment, that could have seemed cheesy or like uh film student artsy kind of things, but it never did. I was thoroughly engrossed the whole way through. And I think that a lot of that is from the strength of the characters,
Hmm.
that I never felt I am watching an actor put on this performance. I felt like I'm a weirdo with a camera pointing it at these people. Um, and so given how little there is of both of what we would see if we knew these people as real people, we would know all like their backstory, their personality, and everything. We would see them in a variety of situations, whereas here we see them in this really limited slice of their lives. And if we were watching a normal movie, we would see their arc. We would get introduced to their character traits. We might have a save the cat moment where it's like, ah, we are supposed to like this character.
Mhm.
Um, and there's very little of that in this. And so how when you're not using those, more normal techniques, how do you make the audience care about the characters?
That's a good question. I mean, generally speaking, I just kind of make the characters ones that I would care about, I guess. So I don't know. I guess I go from that perspective of like what makes me care about them. And I think the thing with a lot of the characters in this film is they're very vulnerable. They're very they kind of say how they feel a lot. They don't beat around the
Mm.
bush. And the thing is, because it's almost like I've made a lot of short films, and this is the first feature, not non-documentary feature I've made. So it was almost like approaching it like 9 shorts. And there's different rules around a short film, right? Like you don't have time to be subtle sometimes, and at least in our films, like we're very full feel. So I guess we had to be more like blunt about things. And I mean, even the intro with Eddie at the therapist, like he's just basically he's like pouring out all the water of his everything. It's like this happens and this happens and I feel this way and this happens, and it's not like the therapist has to beat it out of him. And later on in the film, you have Tom, and he's on the phone with a call operator, and he's just kind of unloading his whole. He's not beating around the bush. He's like, I take medication, and I'm addicted to coffee and weed, and I sleep in, and I'm really good at my job, and like so. I think there's a honesty that I with the characters, and I think it kind of gets through. The characters have a lot to them, I think, but in a short time because they are very honest. And I mean, there's a couple too. And as soon as she gets home, she's like, I'm pregnant. And they immediately argue about it. It's just like cutting through with a warm knife to get to these cores really quickly. And I'm not so sure in a horror movie, you need people to really like the characters.
Yes. And let me interrupt you for a moment there. I didn't say like the characters. I said care about the characters.
Oh, okay.
And that's the thing that, like, I think in most genres, you do need the audience to like the characters, but in a horror movie, it's also fine if the audience dislikes the characters, as long as they care about what happens to the characters. So,
I think,
or at least that's my perspective.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. I think in my mind, I'm more like when I'm thinking about movies or characters, it's more like what makes it interesting, and also what's like the carrot on a stick that like keeps you like wanting to know the next thing they're gonna do, or the string that you're pulling and slowly unfolding. Like it's like, what is that? Like that's kind of how I think about it, to be interested in characters. Like what is going on with this guy, or what are they gonna say, and what's where's this gonna go, and like why is this person like this, and why if his sister's worried about him, and she like, make me a promise that you're going to go outside, that you haven't been outside in a while. Or this one guy, he's taking care of his mother, and then we're learning about his patterns, and his patterns break. And so I guess I'm just trying to find little things that I would find interesting. I don't know. I don't, to be honest, I don't overthink it too much. I guess like I said, I look at film like it's an exploration, not a like I'm looking for an answer when I'm making this film, and I'm saying, what if we try this? I'm not always making a film thinking like we're going to give it an all-encompassing answer. That makes any sense.
Yeah. So,
So like I wanted to find characters that we could explore, and I wanted to find a theme we could explore within them. And to me, it's like that exploration of exploring these things with these characters is what makes it interesting for in my mind, that we're like kind of exploring this theme within them, exploring these characters that way, and like almost like learning about them as we go.
Yeah. And you brought up like the wife character, the mother character. It's interesting how so many of these, like, there's sort of pairs of characters, where there's the one that we're following who's more or less the point of view character, who's the one who's doing the dissociating, and then there's the other character who's, in the case of the mother character, sort of barely has any barely does anything, doesn't really have any agency. Yeah.
Maybe not even alive.
Yeah. And then in the character of the husband and wife, the wife character is very active and like doing more things than the husband character, and is almost closer to the point of view. So when creating these pairs of characters where one of them is kind of normal and one of them is having these mental issues, did they like bleed into each other at all? How did you, like, given that the whole movie is such sort of about unreliable narrators, how was having like half the characters be themselves these unreliable narrators and half the characters be much more normal, what was that like? What was it like to direct for those different direct the actors for those different characters? It's hard to form questions about these because it's also
yeah,
complicated and unreliable.
That's a good question. Well, I mean, we knew we had to kind of, in a way, pass the curse around. And the interesting thing is, the movie's had multiple edits, and in a very earlier edit of the movie, the original initial plan was it was actually much more linear. It's like we see all of the Eddie character, then he's with his therapist, and we see all of the therapist character, and then we see all of the. So it's kind of like it was a little more
Okay.
followable, but kind of going with the concept of like making it more like a nightmare and unreliable. We were like, and also making the film, the pacing of the edit better. We're like, what if we just kind of mix this up, like it's we see like a little bit of each character, and we go back to different characters, and we're kind of here and there and here and there, and they're connecting, and it's a little bit like a puzzle. Like people want to put it together, like how did it go from this person to this person to this person to this person. um but I don't know. I guess I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I'm always thinking, like I said, like these films are like an exploration of ourselves and of what we're trying to achieve. And when I look back at the movie, it's a lot of like men with these women, right? Like a lot of the pairing of
Yes.
men and women. There's no two brothers,
Right.
and I don't know why I don't know why that's how it ended up. It's kind of like all these men have this kind of like these like women in their lives who are these different people for them, right? So I don't know. It's like, they kind of like Eddie has this therapist he looks up to, and Tom has this sister that he needs, and this one guy has his mother he takes care of. And so it's kind of exploring all these different relationships, almost non-romantic relationships that men have with women, and kind of like weird. And I also think it's like men and women. Actually, a lot of our films on our, this is only something I can tell you in retrospect, because I didn't know what I was doing it at the time. But if you watch a lot of the short films on our channel, especially even the more popular ones, a lot of them have to do with actual like men and women's relationships, and kind of I want to say the sickness and the trauma and the issues around that, like the imbalance that happens there, and with just like,
Interesting.
yeah, like, so I think this film, because it's kind of a, I mean, if you watch all the short films on our channel, you'll see like a lot of that DNA is in this film. Um, so I think it kind of just naturally carried over that a lot of our films are psychological, and I think a lot of the biggest psychological traumas we have are in relationships, whether they're reliable or unhealthy or um, resentful. And so I think a lot of that came through that way. And I think yeah, there's an interesting dynamic between men and women throughout time, even currently in our society. And I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about how men feel about it and how women feel about it, and how it can work and how it doesn't work, and how, I mean, my belief is that we're not taught emotional intelligence in our life, and we are given the worst idols possible of where to learn that from, which is usually our parents' failed relationships, or movies, which sell us false ideals, and sell us toxic masculinity and all that kind of stuff. So I think that there's a interesting exploration there, and like honestly, a lot of my films and even a lot of my scripts kind of have that exploration of like what's going on with this relationship between men and women, and why doesn't it align, like why is it so fraught, so it's a little bit of an exploration of that. And I mean, I've even shown the film to a few people, and especially that married couple. People are like, wow, like that's what my ex-husband used to do. uh
Oh,
like used to be like, come home and be a dick when I made dinner and say he already ate. Like it's a thing, right? So it's like, um I don't know. I just think that, I don't know if this movie like really like makes a succinct, it doesn't, I don't think it makes a succinct point about it, but I think it draws into that, I want to call it like a emotional unintelligence we have as a society between men and women. So that, I guess that's where some of that, like I said, like when I'm thinking of characters and plots and things, I want to explore something. And I think that was something that subconsciously we were exploring. Even with as simple as Eddie, he's this guy that's totally lost, and he's got this like wise therapist. And Anne is actually a therapist, and she's an actor we worked with a bunch, and she's great. Like I've had long deep talks with her. So she represents this kind of like older wise therapist woman to a lost kind of young guy. Like I don't know. I don't know. They're like I said, they're explorations. So I don't know. I'm very interested to know what people say. Like I'm really excited to get this movie out there and hear feedback about people's feelings and takes and what I mean. I've shown about 25 people who are all like cast, crew, or my family and friends, and they've got wildly different takes on things. So I'm very curious to see how it shakes through. I mean, some of the short films we made, people will come up with like what it meant. And when I think about it, I'm like, wow, like that's a way better idea than we had making the movie. That's what we'll go with that one. So I like to there's a quote from I think it's John Carpenter where someone asked him about themes of his film, and he goes, themes aren't for me to decide, themes are for you to decide. And I really like that. I really like that approach.
Yeah, yeah, that's I agree. The whole like once you create something and put it out there, then that's half the process, and the other half is other people watching it and taking from it what they can and interpreting it in their own unique way. Um, excuse me. I definitely want to talk with you more about the structure of this and how you said it was uh, largely without a script, which is really interesting. That's something I've gotten really fascinated with in filmmaking recently, so that lines up really well. I was scrolling through your YouTube channel and saw that you guys made Make Me a Sandwich. I've seen that movie before.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And for Make Me a Sandwich is the therapist.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you were talking about the structure of how the film was made and that it was in large parts shot without a script. And that's something I've been really interested in recently. So I'd love to hear about your technique there and how you did that.
Sure. So I mean, I'm not gonna say there was no scripts ever, but if we had a script, it was for the individual moments that we had. So when, for example, like all of Tom's sequence at the end was scripted. Where we're talking to his sister and he sees the pregnant woman and his whole life, like that whole bit was scripted. But for example, like with the Eddie sequence at the beginning, it was all designed via the monologue. So his
Okay.
monologue was the thing that I wrote on my notes app while I was losing my mind on set one day. And I kind of was like playing it up as I was him and, envisioning these things where he's scratching his leg and stabbing his hand and all that. But so that was all monologue driven. I mean, it's like an 8-minute sequence of monologue. And so it was all kind of built around that one monologue. Like there wasn't a script outside of that. I mean, I wrote a little script for him and the therapist, but I kind of wanted them to do it naturally. Like I wanted them to just kind of like have a natural little talk, like almost like we were going to treat like a real therapy session. So I guess it's hard to explain because the movie has these like 9 chapters, I want to call it,
Okay.
and like 9 main characters, and each one we kind of approach differently. Like there's Martin, the man who has no memory with his sick mother. There's no dialogue, so that was just storyboarded. Like that bit, I just storyboarded it out. There's nothing really much to write about.
Okay.
There was the section where they're talking about the paramedic who murders his whole family, and that was just a podcast. So we actually, I know I have a friend who has a podcast about like, de-escalating police enforcement, military kind of stuff, and so he's wanted to act, and so we went into his studio, and I brought an actor to be the guest, and I basically like said, well, this is the story, and they just did it naturally. Like there was no script for that. They just had like a natural dialogue about something that wasn't true. And so that was then taken and trimmed and cut down and figured out, and then we shot footage to go with it. And there's the sequence with the little girl who gets kidnapped, and that was just based around a lot of like one line pieces of dialogue. So it wasn't, we kind of, that part's like almost a collection. It was almost like a music video. We just like, let's collect shots. Let's collect interviews, lines. So it was a lot of getting voice actors to send in and stuff, and let's like mold it out of that. And I think the thing is, I've been editing a long time, so I kind of like the idea of using different styles for each section. And then later in the film we'll just like we'll land in a section where it's like two actors, more traditional coverage, more traditional dialogue. We scripted it. So it was playing with that a lot, and a lot of this, to be honest, had to do with the fact that the movie's so low budget. I couldn't afford a sound mixer to come, or sound recordist to come every day to set. So I had to for my friend Julian, who plays Eddie. I'm like, dude, I can only afford a sound recordist for so many days. I'm like, we have to design a lot of this movie around either there being no sound or the audio being recorded separate from the picture, because it's easy to do a voiceover. I don't need a sound recordist for that, but I need sound recorders for on-set spoken dialogue. So it's playing with all these different styles, I guess. And I think the thing is, back to Skinamarink, like that movie was it's so avant-garde and so like bold in a way. And I'm kind of with you. Like I enjoy it, but I don't think I'd watch it again. It's a hard thing to recommend. It's definitely, to me, it's like the kind of art film that you go to an art gallery and see playing on a million screens. Like it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this, I think that gave me a little bit of a boldness to be like, if this guy can do it, I think we can do that too, as long as like the vibe is there, and as long as we get enough coverage, and as long as we can go back and reshoot and do all that stuff. So that gave me a lot of confidence to go into some of these things and be like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. Let's just film worms on a cake, and let's film some VHS of a birthday party, and like let's just mash it together with these different disparate elements that kind of piece together this lost in time story. And I think a lot of it worked. And I just know, I mean, I've seen enough indie horror films, and this isn't just indie. This, like, we didn't have indie's $1 million. We had, and some movies are for 100, 200, 500,000. We didn't even have $20,000. Like, this is budget AF.
Yeah.
So it was like
micro budget is
micro budget.
And that's the case for not everybody I interview, but definitely the majority of people I interview.
And I just know that if you try to do the thing that people are used to seeing, then they're just going to immediately be like, well, this isn't it. I've seen a movie with a protagonist and a group of friends and the threat and the location and they're just going to be like, this isn't it. I've seen Blumhouse films where where's the crane shot that cranes me in? And the actors in this movie are great, but like, could any of them really hold a whole movie as a protagonist? I don't know. They're all young actors, so I'm not. I wasn't sure. I guess in my mind, the structure of it was to find something somewhere between Skinamarink and like the movies we're used to seeing, where it's more of a 3-act protagonist. So it's like we're not giving them nothing like Skinamarink does. It's not a complete vibe. We're giving them a little bit of stuff and a little bit of strings to pull and characters to learn from, but we're not giving them that full like. Here's your protagonists, here's your antagonists, here's your 3 acts, here's your character's rise in action and arcs and stuff. And so somewhere in the middle there, the messy place in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question that just fell out of my head. Yeah, so this is an ensemble film in the sense that there is no one lead, and instead we follow a bunch of different characters. But typically in an ensemble film, a large portion of the appeal of it is the like interactions of those characters, whereas each of these stories is much more sort of siloed off. And so I'm curious, you said you'd worked with some, but not all of these actors before.
I want to say 90% of them I had.
Okay. So it's mostly people that you're already familiar with.
Yeah.
Did you write the roles with those actors in mind? Yeah. Oh, okay.
They even name. A lot of them have the same name as in real life, because I'm like, I'm going to call you like Tom is Tom, and Rachel is Rochelle, but I'm like, Rachel more approachable than Rochelle. So, but most of them just have their actual full names. Martin is Martin, and Monica is Montina, and Kayla is Kayla, and so they all sort of have their real name just Also because I knew in the movie you don't really hear their names very much, so it's kind of like it doesn't really matter. It's for the script.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I think that's one of the things that's, I mean, casting's important. And the nice thing with me is I've made all these short films, so I've had good and bad experiences with the actors. And the actors in this movie, like I have had a good experience with all of them. Like I think they're like way better than indie, these actors. So I feel like I got lucky because I mean, one of the comments I've gotten back from a lot of people is like, wow, these actors are really good for an indie film. And so I think I used to be like, I want to use new people all the time, but I think I've like kind of now gone to another headspace where I'm like, no, I want to work with people I like to work with, who I'm friends with, who I know will give me that extra thing, who will really get into the characters. And yeah, like I think I'd rather work with people I know. So that's why it was a very nice experience. And the thing too with some of these characters, like Julian's like one of my best buddies, and so we could just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and he would just come over to my place for like a few days, and we would just film, a bunch of scenes of him. And there's so much stuff we didn't put in the movie too, and like we reshot things with him, just because we're like, let's do it better, let's do this again better. And so because it's a friend and it's not like we're in this set mentality, it's like, no, we're just two guys hanging out. I've got my camera, I've got my macro lenses, I got some lights, I've got my monitors. So I was able to just kind of hone it in with him, and we take our time. Yeah, that's kind of, I feel more comfortable working with people I know than strangers.
That makes sense. So you mentioned just now shooting tons and tons of footage that then doesn't end up in the final product. And earlier you were talking about improvising sort of small moments. Did you have improvising like any of the bigger things, like the structure or like where a particular story would go or anything like that?
I think that's too hard. And the other thing is we shot wildly out of order. So we kind of had to know.
Ah,
It was interesting. There's a scene where, Wendy is talking about her brother, Tom. It's Wendy and Tom, the brother-sister dynamic. The truth is too, being indie, I knew the locations is the hardest thing, right? Locations and sound are two of the big budget bullet points in an indie film.
yeah.
And I knew if like we rented a location, I'm time limited, and I didn't want that. And I mentioned to you I was breaking up or had a breakup, so I was
Yeah.
only in this location, my last house. I had like a month left, and I'm like, well, I need to shoot everything I can in this house, and then when I look for a new place to rent, I'm gonna find the place that works for the rest of the movie. So, anyways, we had to shoot some stuff way out of order. And it was interesting because we filmed Wendy's scene talking to her boyfriend or her husband about her brother like 6 months before we filmed the brother stuff. So they improv that whole scene. I had some beats. I'm like, hey, you're basically whining to your husband about you're worried about your brother. Here's like 10 points that we can hit. The food in his fridge, his job, they had this kind of like long argument, and we kind of had to reverse engineer it where she says things in that argument that like we planned on having Tom do, and we're like, well, that doesn't really work, and that shot didn't really work out. So we were kind of like reverse engineering based on this conversation of what she experienced with her brother. We went and then filmed all this stuff with the brother, and we kind of had to like fit into the mold of what she had already said. So it was a little of that.
Okay.
There's a little of that, and there's parts of, I'm not gonna lie too, like I was editing the movie, like I edited as I went, and
Okay.
there's a part where I'm like, oh my god, this movie's only 50 minutes long. Like the way I want to cut it, it's 50 minutes. I'm like, that's not good enough. So it's like it was too. I wanted to be tight. I like to edit tight, right? I don't like to like
Yeah.
hold on moment. And so we added more to the movie. And so there was a point where it's like,
Hmm.
oh, this character was going to connect to this character. It's like, no, now there's a whole character in the middle of them that we're going to like figure that out and reshoot it. And one actor, I said, hey man, you're not in the scene anymore. Like there's another character who's coming in to like wedge between those two parts. And so it's a little bit scrappy how we put it together. But I think that kind of works towards the type of movie that it is, right? I think if we had overly scripted it or overly planned it, I don't think we would have got some of those dynamic, weird style moments, like it wouldn't have felt as kind of just random and out there. And I mean, even there's a scene in the movie that's from a short film we did, and I'm like,
Oh,
this works in the movie. Let's put it in. And it was a shot we didn't use. And I contacted the actor in, and I go, hey man, do you want this scene to be in this movie? And so we're just like, it fits. So we kind of put that in.
which scene was that?
It's a scene where the guy Eddie walks down the stairs and pours cereal and milk on the guy's face. Just
Oh,
one shot, but that was
that,
actually part of
that's in the
cereal.
trailer, isn't it?
It's not in the trailer. That's him putting the
No.
gum in the guy's mouth.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we were gonna make this movie called Cereal Man, and we filmed this kind of like this little short segment for it where he's got this guy typed up in his basement and he's feeding him cereal and milk. And this movie kind of morphed out of that a little bit with the duct taping people up and stuff. And we're like, hey, that one shot kind of works, and it's also a little bit like it's an Easter egg, and it's also a little bit of like a nightmare. If we do make Cereal Man one day, then it's like this was a bit of the nightmare hint of that movie coming later. And also, I'm an editor, so if I can add another minute, I can cut another minute somewhere else that I don't like. So it kind of works in those ways. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, one of the things I on a production standpoint is like editing the movie as you go is so helpful. Like I can't imagine having sat there with all the footage at the end and not being able to guide things based on the edit that we already had.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because like I'm getting ready to make my first feature, and I also expect to uh well, actually no, I'm going to be trying to shoot as quickly as I can in a single long weekend. So
Crazy.
I don't know. Well, we'll see. It's very much an experiment, so
The one thing,
we'll see how it
one thing
goes.
is a lot of I've seen a lot of indie films, both $1 million to $10,000, and they all have this mentality of like, well, we don't have the money, so we don't have the time. And I think the thing is to reverse that thinking, because the one free thing we do have is time. And so if you want to get inserts of, a bloody finger, don't make this a big crew event where you have all your crew and your sound and your makeup. No, just put the bloody finger on your kitchen table and shoot it yourself. But because you have the time, like I'm not a DP. I mean, I know how to shoot a camera, but most of the time I would just be like, hey, let me get my monitor up. Let me light it and shoot it 10 different ways. And whatever way looks cool in the end is what we'll go with. And that we had the time. So I would implore you to think like maybe shoot your principal footage in that time frame. But if you have inserts and B-roll and extras and exteriors, like take your sweet time getting those.
Oh yeah, yeah. I intended to do pickup shots and things like that afterwards. It's principal photography in one long weekend, and that's not about lack of money. That's about wanting to have all the people together in one space where we can really focus on that and do a lot of the improvisation sort of things. So,
Cool.
um, yeah. Normally, I will ask about like character motivations and casting people who worked with each other and things like that. But this movie's so different from the structure of most films that a lot of that stuff isn't really there. Um, do you see yourself making any more traditional features in the future, or is this sort of experimental, really, really unusual structure what you're passionate about and what you want to keep making?
I like this. Well, I have a lot of scripts written, and a lot of them are more traditional. The thing is,
Okay.
I need the funding for it. Like I just can't shoot a DSLR and do cheesy gimbal DSLR. Like I needed some of these movies to be different, right? And there's a lot of dialogue, and I don't want to shoot it for 10 days in a quick 10 day. Like I feel like some of these movies I've written, I need money to make the way
Okay.
they need to be, especially with the makeup and the locations. Like, so I'm always sort of writing with that in the back of my head. And even some of these films I've written, I would still need like $500,000 to make, or at the lowest 300,000.
Yeah.
Serial Man, we probably could do for 100,000. But if I'm gonna go super duper grungy indie, I think my only option is to do this kind of movie where it's like kind of avant-garde and out there, and a little bit of the Skinamarink influence and the found footage influence, because I just don't. I think it works for indie. Like like you'll even Baleful even has kind of like a grungy film look. And we even shot 8mm film. We shot VHS, and then on the stuff we shot 4K. Even on our higher end cameras, like we shot some FS7, FX3, Sony cameras. We apply like a grainy look to it, and it kind of degrade. We use Dehancer Pro, which is a plugin for Resolve, to like dehance the image. And so
Yeah.
think that kind of is what we have to do, because we frankly just don't have the budget or the time or the cranes or the Arri Alexa and Master Prime lenses to make it look the way people are used to seeing a movie look. So we almost, I feel like I have to do that. But with that said, I love like Terrence Malick and David Lynch. Like I like being like weird as and bizarre. So I want to say like I'd love to do more movies like this again. I'd also love to do a little more mainstream stuff too, if we can. If I can get an Alexa, basically, I just need to shoot on an Alexa, not a. What are you going to shoot your movie on? Do you have a camera? Do you know what camera?
Yeah. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K.
Nice. Okay, those are good. That's great. Just be careful on the low light, because those cameras in low light, the noise can be.
Yeah. I have an f1.7 Prime that I'm going to be using.
Nice.
So yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So since this is my first feature, it's something that it's going to be my first film made on this camera, and it's not being made for any investors or anything like that. It's for the love of art, and it's an experiment. So I'm treating it as much as a learning experience as it is like a product that it's going to, come out with eventually.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see what I can do with like a single prime lens, and I picked one with a wide aperture to get that depth of field and to be able to do things in low light.
Great.
So yeah, hoping it'll turn out well.
That's awesome.
Just
You're doing it though, man. What a great thing to get into. But I mean, the fact that you're doing it is really cool, man. Like you're gonna come out of it. It's a bold move. Like, a lot of people, they talk about making a movie. So just doing it is really, I commend you for diving in.
thanks. Yeah, it's interesting. I did not start out thinking I'm going to make movies. Instead, I started this this podcast, and this which was originally a little bit more broad, and then I interviewed Len Kapuscinski and realized that, oh man, I love interviewing people, and this became an interview podcast. And
You have a
then
great podcast voice, man. I gotta say,
well, thank you.
Great.
And then a lot of the people that I interviewed encouraged me to make my own movies, and so I was like, oh sure, I guess I will. And made a few shorts, and I was like, all right, I want to make a feature. I've got the bug.
Great. I mean, you have the sense for it, right? You've seen movies, you like, structure. That's great.
Yeah. Structure is such an interesting thing to me. That's because I'm very much going to be improvising mine. I've got the premise and the structure, and I don't know if you have played role-playing games at all, but I I made a role-playing game, Fear of the Unknown, about horror films, which is all about like, can I make explicit and sort of mechanize the structure of these movies? And then I'm going to be using that as the basis to sort of improvise within for the feature.
Cool.
And so when I think about trying to make a movie that's as different from the normal structure of a film as Baleful is, like you mentioned earlier, like, well, it's not got the 3-act protagonist antagonist setup and payoff sort of things. I feel like I would get really lost in the weeds, especially if you're filming not in chronological order. And you mentioned that at first it was very linear, like we follow one character, then we follow the other character, and then you changed it to we jump around from character to character. How did you keep track of all of that?
Well, I mean, we filmed it mostly, I don't want to say we filmed in order, but we filmed the characters one at a time, which helped. So it's like we didn't really move on from Eddie until we were done with Eddie. You know what I mean? So it's not like we filmed a little of Tom and a little of Martin, a little of Monica, and like it was like, no, let's film out all of Eddie. Let's see how this whole thing pieces together. And I'm an editor, so it's mostly like I was building an edit timeline in a weird way. So because like I'd have an actor come over,
Okay.
I'd be like, let me open the movie's timeline. Like I'm not going to show you a script. We're not going to sit and talk about it for 3 hours. I said, let me open the project file in Adobe Premiere. Let me show you the timeline of the movie. And like I would scrub the playhead through the movie and be like, here's this part where this happens and this happens, this happens. Here's a big blank moment where your thing happens. After you, then this happens and this happens, this happens. So I was kind of using that timeline. We also had the luxury of like not having to be super it didn't have to be super like, cleanly continual. So we had a little more flexibility, but it was really just that. And then when, I did have a mind map, I want to call it, like this kind of like, here's this guy's character, here's this person's character, here's this person's character, here's what happens, here's this person's character, here's what happens. And it was really when I have a cut of the movie where it is more linear, where it's like everything from Eddie, everything from Martin, everything from Monica, everything from Tom. And then now when I went back to re-edit, I can tell from some of my early screeners that by an hour into the movie, people didn't have the patience to sit through another introduction of a character. And I'm kind of like, pacing is a little bit off. Like it feels a little bit like we really are just watching an anthology. And it felt like a little bit I think we had the leeway to make it more confusing and more of a puzzle. And I mean, at one point I had a friend who's seen it a bunch of times. He goes, why don't you just take this one scene and cut it right in the middle to somewhere else and cut back to it later? He's like, just make it more confusing. We did it, and it was a good idea. So it's kind of what we did. Like we really, I basically broke everyone's story into parts and then kind of re-edited the movie where rather than it's like all of A, then all of B, then all of C, it's like A1, B1, C1, D1, A2, E1, D2, B2, A3, like that kind of like mixing that up. And it took a lot of like thought and different ways of doing it, but I think ultimately it makes the movie better, and I think it makes the pacing better. And by the time you're near that kind of climactic third act part of the movie, like an hour-ish in, more things are happening, and more like the finales of these storylines are all happening at once. So it's a little more engaging that way. And in the beginning, it's easier to get all these introductions out of the way. And I think we were just lucky that some of these characters, like, Martin's character, like he goes to sleep. His story is over easy 3 days, right? And Tom's was a little trickier to find a break points where like, okay, at this point is when your first story ends. The other thing too with the movie is that we can kind of like do abrupt cuts, and then like it'll abruptly out of nowhere, like hard cut static, and then you're watching a VHS of something. So we didn't have to be as smooth. The style of the movie doesn't force us into being smooth with our transitions. It's almost very abrupt and rough and unpredictable. So we had a little bit of leeway in those ways. But yeah, it is weird. I mean, when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, it really was like unplanned. And a lot of people like think that's almost don't want to admit it to certain people. It's like, yeah, we didn't have a script. Because, you kind of need a script if you're trying to get investment. And some of the actors were like, what is my character doing? Where's the script? And I just said, just trust me. And there was the character for Monica, Montina. And I was like, she's like, what's my character doing? And I'm like, you do nothing. Just keep your eyes open and look weird, and we'll build the whole character around that. And she's like, okay. And it kind of works, right? Like she does this like blankness about her. And so that's hard for an actor sometimes, but I don't know, it kind of works, right? It kind of worked in a weird way. It's weird how it came together, man. I'm when I look back, I'm like, this is kind of a crazy. We filmed over like 7 months.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, and we filmed very spread out. So and you'll notice like the beginning, like the credits, like there's like 12 different DPs that worked on. Do you call them DPs in the States or cinematographers? DP, cinematographer, same thing, right?
Both are used.
So we had like 12 DPs come on. And I've done so many short. Yeah, I have so many short films, and I'm just like this kind of guy that I know all these people because I work in the industry. I'm a DIT. So I know DPs, I have a lot of friends in film, and they're always like, yeah, I want to help out on something, but of course, none of them are going to be like, I'll help you on 41 days when you're paying $100 a day and you're shooting overnight and you're kind of shooting on your
Yeah.
phone. And like they don't like that. They want to control the whole movie's image. But they trusted enough where I could say, why don't you just come for this one set of days or this one day? So the movie has a lot of different looks to it, right? Because it's got all these different people shooting it. So I was able to take advantage of that and be like, and we've shot mostly on the weekends on Sundays because that's the day that no one gets booked in the industry. At least here we only film commercials. Like commercials are the biggest thing in Toronto for most people I know. So Sundays are really reliable. So we'd shoot like once a week every Sunday or maybe Saturday, Sunday. And I'd be able to book a different DP. I'd be like, hey, are you available? You're not. Are you available? You're not. Are you able to come? And we just kind of did it that way. So it's very odd. It's a very odd movie. We have multiple different makeup artists there's not one makeup artist throughout the whole movie. There's not one DP. We had multiple sound people. It was a weird production, but it was almost like we shot a bunch of short films. It kind of was, and it was to me, it was a more approachable way to do it, thinking of it that way, because our channel, we already make short films all the time anyways. And it just made it more approachable for me to say, hey, I've got to shoot this Sunday. I don't need an art director and all the fancy things that I can't afford. So let me just do all that beforehand. We filmed in my house, so I could be like, let me set this house up like it's his house. And so I spent the whole day before setting it up. So when everyone got there, it was practically lit. The camera was all set up. The art was all done. And it gave me the leeway where it's like, okay, we don't have to like reset it within a 10-day shoot time frame. It's like, okay, this scene's done. Move over to this scene, set it all up. Okay, shoot this scene, set it all up. It was much calmer. And we were able to do reshoots really easily, which was nice too. So I don't know, like if I did another movie, it's hard to say like we can talk about structure of the movie itself. It's also like the structure of your production. And I think because I'm an editor and I'm a shooter and I kind of one of those guys who just is hands-on, I wanted the structure of the production to be also not messy, but unconventional.
Okay.
And I think I'd like to do that still. Like if I got money for another movie, it might be a little more conventional where it's like, hey, we have our locations, we have our schedule, but I'd still be unconventional about it. And I like the idea of having more time and a smaller crew. So I don't like the idea of having a giant crew and everything's moving slowly. I'd rather have more setup time, more prep time, and shoot longer. And I don't know. Anyways, I'm rambling on here. So
Uh, yeah. Okay. So changing subjects a bit to the visuals of the film, you mentioned before I even got a chance to say, I noticed this in the credits. You mentioned that you use Dehancer, which is a set of plugins for DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a nonlinear editor and color grading software, which is free. Dehancer is not free.
well,
And
Resolve is not necessarily free if you have the studio version.
that's true. And I actually do have the studio version,
So
but
the noise reduction is going to be amazing. Noise reduction in the studio version is great. So one
yes.
big thing I will say, it's awesome.
Yeah. Although I actually have a guy doing sound editing, which is
I meant
good.
noise. I meant visual noise, not sound noise. But yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
So you
Especially,
might
I
find that
imagine
what you do is you remove the noise with Resolve, and then you add the noise back with Dehancer.
yeah, yeah. So talk a bit about the decision to do that rather than just go with the digital look that you get out of the camera. And you mentioned a DSLR. Was this shot on a DSLR or
shot it on a
multiple
12
cameras?
camera. So we shot
Oh wow.
mostly. It was shot Sony A7 III, which is a DSLR. It's the older brother to the A7S II. You may have heard of. It's like Sony's really good low light DSLR, 4K, and it's like $2,000, so it's relatively cheap. But we also, all these other DPs who came on would bring like Sony FS7, FX3, Canon R6s, FX3s. I mentioned that. And then I have an 8mm camera. I have VHS cameras. We shot a little bit of GoPro. Yeah, so we shot on a whole whack of different cameras. Um,
Okay.
so that's tricky, right? Because the look is very different. If we had shot one continuous movie in a conventional way, that would have been a very big challenge for us to like match things. But I think because of the style of this movie, we got away with it. Being like, okay, we were okay to be like, well, it's okay if this whole part is in a different camera style and a different look because it's a whole different person, a whole different character, a whole different spot. But when it comes to Dehancer, I'm a DIT, so I'm on set, and a lot of DPs love Dehancer. So I was using it a lot. I would just pay for the 1 month license or whatever, and bring it to set, and we'd use it on a lot of commercials. Like we use it on Nike commercials, Rockstar commercials, and I'm like, this looks really cool. And funny enough, I never thought about using Dehancer Pro. They actually reached out to me and they wanted me to do a thing on my channel as a review for them. They're like,
Oh,
well,
wow.
they said, we'll give you 3 months to use it and you do a review. And I was like, well, I went back to them like, we're not really a review channel. If we really are a horror channel that we only post horror films, we don't do reviews. But
Yeah.
I was like, but funny enough, I'm in post on a feture film. I love Dehancer Pro. Would you guys want to sponsor the movie? And they did. They're like, yeah, we'll give you a license for X amount of time. Just put the logo in the end. And they were like really supportive and good about it. I love Dehancer. They were great. I've used Dehancer and I've used what is it called? Filmbox, which is another like dehancing plugin.
Yep.
Both great. But I think I prefer Dehancer's tools. And yeah, it's great. And the funny thing is, like, we dehance, and then there's a lot of stuff that's just filters, right? A lot of the things are not, I mean, I call them filters, Instagram generation. They're just like blended film that's above the film blended. So like I have so many assets, right, that are like old film, grungy film scratches, even things like light leaks, like lens whacking light leaks, where it's like kind of like weird like flares. Like a lot of that's not in camera. A lot of that's in post. You wouldn't tell. So we would dehance the image with dehancer and then add like another layer of like granular kind of look effects and looks and dehancement. It's all fake.
Yeah. Well, okay, so, that was really cool and interesting, but it didn't quite answer the question I was trying to ask, which is why choose to go with that kind of look instead of, I mean, there are parts where it's VHS look and it's clear why you're going for that. It's because that's an in-universe recording that somebody made on a VHS. But for the rest of it, with this sort of slightly murky, sort of damaged film look, why that instead of just a modern digital look?
Well, I mean, I mean, I can answer this on an artistic level and on a technical level again. On the artistic level, I think it works for the film. I think it's like part of dehancing an image is like, you're kind of sucking color out of it and sometimes flattening it a bit. And it just kind of works for the movie, I think, where we're nothing, it feels a bit nightmarish, dreamy. Where if it was crystal clear, that just doesn't feel like the vibe of the movie. That we're in a crystal clear world with these characters. We're kind of in this grungy homes and empty homes, and we're in basements, and we're up late, and is it really happening? And everything's terrible. Like even the one time someone goes outside in the movie, he just talks about how much he hates to be outside. So giving it that look, and we shot a lot of that on macro, so the lens does this kind of funny thing, and it kind of just makes it look surreal. So I think it works on that artistic level. On the practical level, my feeling is that if you're going to shoot on a low end digital camera like we had to, it doesn't look good enough. It just looks bad, and the rolling shutter is not. That's why you'll notice a lot of the movement. There's not a lot of camera movement in the whole movie. Our camera movement is mostly when we're on the on the VHS or the 8mm. All of our 4K stuff is pretty much locked off tripod. It's because on these lower end digital cameras, they don't handle movement very well. If I don't have an
Hmm.
Alexa or have a Sony Venice or something like that, it doesn't look good. It looks digital, and I'm gonna tell you, man, it looks okay on my laptop. It looks even okay on my 65-inch TV. But if I put it on a big screen, you notice it. And we saw a movie on like C500, which is a pretty decent broadcast Canon camera. I watched it in a film festival on a big screen, and instantly, I said, "That's the difference between an Alexa and a C500. That's why you need to pay. That's why this camera is $100,000, and the camera we had is 15,000. You really can see it the bigger it gets. All
Okay.
and it really the image falls apart. So I'm kind of like, I have to lean into the things that we're doing. If we're gonna, we have to make a grungy lo-fi movie. We can't try to make a high fidelity film if we don't have the tools and the budget to do that. We can't pretend. And I feel like a lot of indie movies fail because they do try to pretend. They do say, let's make it a beautiful shot. I've got this DP who's trying to make his portfolio. We've got this, we've got this great setup and whatever. But at the end of the day, like, it's just not going to be there without the master primes and the Alexa and the jib shot and the big giant light on a that big 5K light that's lighting the whole street. The street's not wet. Like, there's all these things that like movies do that we take for granted when we go to the theater. So I'm really a proponent of, like, until I have those levels of production to make a movie, let's call it pretty. Don't try to make it pretty. Like, and we in horror,
I,
we have the opportunity to not make a pretty film. Like, we can make
I
a grungy film.
I would go with slick personally.
Yeah, better.
But yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. I know for mine, I'm intending it to look like low budget documentary that then goes off the rails.
Sweet.
Um,
The doc look
so
is such a good another way for us indie filmmakers to go with. I'm editing a movie right now, indie feature for another director, and their whole thing is that's like documentary style, and it really works. It really puts you there and makes you not thinking about this kind of Bloomhouse level high budget slick production that is missing.
yeah, although a lot of their stuff is low budget, if not micro budget, but um
They have like usually about $5 million, I think, is their lowest budget for Bloomhouse.
really, I thought they still did stuff in the 500,000 to 1 or 2 million range.
Now what we're seeing in theaters, 500,000 to a million is like maybe what you'd see on the Netflix or Amazon Prime scroll by, not pay
Yeah.
attention.
Well, and like a trauma film is 500,000 typically.
What's a
Um,
trauma film?
Trauma, the production company Trauma,
Oh,
Troma, the guys who made The Toxic Avenger,
okay, I heard
and
of them.
yeah, uh, their stuff is another way of not doing slick things. Definitely recommend checking their stuff out,
Cool,
especially if you're interested in the history of low budget filmmaking.
definitely.
Um, so yeah, okay. All right. Now I'm curious, if you did have that like arbitrarily high budget to work with, what would you have done differently?
Oh, well, I probably wouldn't have made Baleful. I'd make one of my other scripts that I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All right. That's fair.
Baleful was
Well,
kind of just like out of. I mean, it's like it's an interesting movie because it was kind of like we made it out of what we had. It's kind of like as if you're making you have to make like an art piece, but you have to make what's out of your garage. You know what I mean? It's that kind of
right.
thing. That's how that's a really good analogy for Baleful, actually, where, if I had a higher budget, I'd probably try to make a return on it. Baleful was like a labor of love. Like, I don't know if we'll make any return. But if I had $10 million, there'd be a lot more pressure to make a return on it.
Yeah.
And so I'd probably try to do one of my scripts that's a little more palpable. I don't know, palatable. What's the word? Like, digestible for an audience. And maybe still, I like the bizarre elements, but yeah, I think I have a film called Make Me Some Eggs that I really want to make. And it's about a guy who just wants his YouTube cooking channel to take off, and then he gets into a coma,
Mm.
and then he like decides to cook up his whole family and friends into food, and like
Ah,
that's how he makes the channel. And it's just got so much violence and I need like serious makeup on that movie, like and yeah, just having an Alexa and having a little more production value. So
it's interesting. I think you're definitely among the people I've spoken with who are like the most interested in working with a high-end camera, that most of the people I talk with either are sort of dismissive of the importance of the camera, or are just happy to use whatever it is that they already have. Um, I'm curious what it is that, like, I mean, you already talked about this a fair bit, so you don't need to repeat yourself there about like it looks better when it's on a huge screen. How much do you make things with the intention of them being watched on, like, in a theater on an enormous screen versus at home on your desktop or television or laptop or what have you?
Well, I guess whenever, I mean, this is the first narrative feature I make, but in
Right.
the back of my head, I had a delusion of grandeur that it was going to be like on the big screen, and it'd be this kind of like Skinamarink, get a little bit of theatrical run. I mean, it's probably a delusion, but I guess that's what I'm always kind of thinking about. And it's not just that, but I mean, you want your movie to last. Like, I guess I have weird thoughts about film where it's almost like art. Like, I think of it as art, and I want it to last way longer than I'm alive. So I want it to be something that's future proofed and able to be preserved forever. And so I know that back in the 2000s, when some people were shooting on early digital, it didn't age very well. Like, dare I say, even like Star Wars Episode 2 and 3, which were shot on a Sony F900 at 1080p, don't look good. They actually look bad. And the original films look better when they are re-scanned and released on Blu-ray, and you can watch them at higher resolutions now. So I'm just kind of like, preservation matters in my mind. So yeah, I think that's a part of it as well. And also, it's the thing is, the big screen is a portion of it, but the big problem I have with digital, and I'm a DIT, so like my thing is this, right? Like, that's my main job on commercials. It's like the image, the visual, the what you can do with it. There's other things to keep in mind about a higher end camera that maybe some indie filmmakers don't think about. And at the end
Mhm.
of the day, I'm with them. At the end of the day, it's story, it's character, it's shot composition, it's editing, it's sound. Like, the camera quality is just part of it. And I don't think it's not going to make or break your film, but there's parts about having a higher end camera. It's the motion. Going handheld on a DSLR or Black Magic or some lower end Canon camera, the motion doesn't look right. It morays and there's screen tearing. On an Alexa or even like a higher end Red camera, motion looks proper, a lot better. So if people
Okay.
you're moving the camera and you get more camera and intimate camera motion, it looks nicer. It doesn't
Okay.
look wrong. It doesn't look too digital. But that's one element, is motion. But also in post production, if you shoot on a lower end camera, you have a lot less versatility. Like, if you shoot on an Alexa, you can bring those things out of the black values or bring those things down from the white values. You get a much wider dynamic range. So you can actually like shape the look of your movie a lot better in post. And little things like, let's say I want to isolate a certain color and remove it, or tweak just the green, or tweak just this like blue hint. Well, the Alexa's recording a raw format, so you're getting every pixel is recorded. Where if we shoot on our lower end cameras, you're going to get raw out of your camera because it's Blackmagic. But on our cameras, we're shooting a compressed format in camera, so we're not we never
Hmm.
get raw. So I knew when we were shooting, I'm like, well, the look that we're getting in our camera right now, we can't deviate from that image very much. We can't shoot it really cold and cool and then turn it really warm later. So we had to really be careful with our white balance and our like mentality going into the shoot. Well, how are we going to shoot the scene? Are we going to shoot it neutral so we can do more in post, or are we going to lean into the warmth or lean into the colds for the look of it? So for like some stuff, we were like, no, this is his whole bit is going to be cold, so we're leaning into it. So, anyways, I'm just going on and on about camera stuff, but like an Alexa or a higher end camera gives us that versatility in post to do those types of things that the DIT and the colorist in me would like to do. And also just, yeah, put on the big screen.
Yeah. So, speaking of the big screen, what are your release plans for this?
So I'm not too sure actually at the moment. I mean, people listening months from now, they might be able to watch it.
Yeah.
At the very moment, I'm not too sure. It's right now, I'm kind of in this weird zone of talking to partners I have and trying to get sit downs with sales agents before. I mean, the truth is that my goal would for it to be on something like Shutter.
Yeah.
That would be like, that's our peak goal. I love Shutter. I think it'd be a great home for it. I'd like to make a connection with them. If I contact them without a sales agent, I can apparently, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm very not savvy on this side of the film world,
Hmm.
more of the production side. I'm told that if I don't have a sales agent, you look like an idiot. And you're just like, Shutter gets a million emails from their contact link of people being like, here's my indie film. And they're just going to ignore it. And
I have not been told that explicitly, but I've gotten that impression.
yeah. On the other hand, if the thing is, distribution's hard, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies out there and a lot of horror movies. And if your movie doesn't have Bradley Cooper in it, it's not a huge draw. So it's like, I love Bradley Cooper, by the way, nothing against him. There's a lot of these kind of like factory distributors, let's call them, where they'll take your film, they'll catalog your film, they'll get your film on Apple Movies and Vimeo and Amazon and Tubi and all the things that you can get it on, like anyone can get it on.
Yeah.
But you'll never make any money on it. So some people, that's a good end goal. They're like, oh, our movie's out there. You can watch it. You can rent it. You can stream it. That's what we want. We want our movie out there in people's hands. But the thing is, we already have a YouTube channel with 200,000 subscribers and we get 1,000 views per hour. So minimum. So it's kind of like, I have a huge pull and I have a lot of people telling me, just put it on your channel. Just dump the whole film on your channel. You'll get more views that way. You'll get maybe more money from monetization that way than you will from going through one of these catalog distributors that a lot of horror people go to. And I have friends that have made feature films and they're like, I made nothing on it. Even if I see the movie has been viewed and watched on Tubi or on Apple Movies, I get nothing from it because the distributor has a marketing cost and this cost and that cost. So it's I don't want that.
That's interesting. Up until just that moment, I thought that the kind of distributors you were talking about were like Film Hub, where they take whatever it is that you submit to them, as long as it's formatted correctly and meets the technical specs, but then they don't do any marketing at all. And so on the one hand, they don't do any marketing, so they're not helping really to get people's eyeballs on it. But on the other hand, they don't subtract any of the money that comes in to pay for marketing. That's interesting that there are ones that do take everything like that, but then also charge for marketing. Because yeah, when you talk about that, like not getting any money at all, I've read a lot of indie filmmakers' autobiographies and obviously spoken with a lot, and it seems like less so in the present day, but especially for it back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, anybody who had gotten more than one film out had a horror story about a distributor taking a bunch of money that they were owed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think finding a sales agent who understands your movie is probably a good idea if you are going to try to get it on services like Shutter and things like that. Um, yeah, I'll talk with you a bit more once we stop recording.
Yeah, I think in our mind we're in a little bit of this phase. Like we have submitted to festivals as well, so we're kind of waiting on a few bigger festivals. We're not going to do a festival run for smaller festivals.
Okay.
So the big festivals might not even accept it. I don't know. So we're kind of, I guess in my mind, I'm like, I am very comfortable just releasing it on our YouTube channel for free. I think that'd be awesome. And it wasn't such an expensive movie to make that I couldn't make it back if it got enough views. And also, it's like I can enshrine it there forever, and it can drive traffic forever, and it can just boost that channel forever, which is good, which is like a bottom line thing, right?
Yeah.
But I might as well try my shot at something nice. But if it's like middle of the road, like even something like Film Hub, I'm kind of like, well, does it really matter if I just put it on my channel and I can get more view time on my channels that way. I mean, funny enough, I've had meetings with people where we were talking to them about trying to get they had made features for anywhere between 750,000 to 2 million, and we're trying to like get a piece of that. We're like, hey, how do we get into that? And they're telling us about, you know, minimum guarantees and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then they're like, wait a second, you have 200,000 subscribers and you get this many views. They're like, well, what if we put our films on your channel? They're like, yeah, we can do a revenue share or something. And I'm like, huh, like, so in the back of my head, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe there's a pathway here where we can kind of be like actually not just about short films on our channels, but be feature films as well. So I'm just kind of I don't know, I'm just juggling ideas. I've got this movie. That's why when you asked to watch it, I was kind of like, oh wow, I wasn't really planning to send it to any press until like maybe like late August.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, you met you on Reddit, so yeah, I trust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. My only real, like, I do know that there are filmmakers who put their full feature length films on YouTube. My only real hesitancy about that personally is that, like, I never go to YouTube for the purpose of watching feature films. I go to Tubi or Shudder or Amazon or whichever streaming service I happen to have a subscription to that month.
yeah,
Um, and so uh, I'm really curious how Discovery would work on that, and I don't know the answers. Um, so I'm curious, whatever you end up deciding on, I'm curious how it ends up working for you.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've had long talks about this. I mean, ultimately on YouTube, if you have YouTube on your smart TV, there's no difference between clicking on the YouTube press play and going to Amazon and press play.
That's
But
true,
that's
but
you get ads and all that.
yeah, as a as a professional computer programmer, I'm a bit of a Luddite. I don't have a smart TV or anything like that. I have a TV that I can watch DVDs on through my PlayStation 4, and I have a TV that I can watch VHS tapes on, but
Cool.
I don't have any of my streaming services connected to it or anything like that. Um, okay, so if this is available when this episode comes out, I will of course have a link to it in the description. They can People can watch your other stuff on Deformed Lunchbox on YouTube. Is there anywhere else you would like to direct anyone who's listening?
Well, we're on everything, so you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But also, we have Discord. You want to come on there and join the chat, and then you can find all of our links. I'm pretty sure if you just Google Deform Lunchbox Discord, you could find it. It's all our links are in our descriptions. But yeah, like YouTube's our kind of our biggest spot, and we have short films coming out all the time and from different filmmakers and from us. And if you have a short film that you want a home for, we are open to that as well. So if you're a filmmaker and you don't really want to start your own channel and you don't want your short film to die on Google Drive or Vimeo, we have an audience that loves short films and loves horror, and it's worldwide, and you can get some eyeballs on your film. So feel free to email us or reach out to us. Yeah, we mean, we didn't really talk a lot about it, but I love short film as well. I love short horror. That's a big passion of mine. I think that I don't look at short films as a stepping stone towards a feature or towards a career goals. To me, short films are valuable pieces of art and entertainment.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting. For me, there's just something magical about the feature length runtime that really makes things work for me. I like that more than shorts, and I like it more than television.
Same here. I'm glad you said that. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to watch series instead. I'm like, no, feature films is where it's at. They'll always exist.
Oh yeah, and Baleful is the perfect length for a feature film, which is 88 minutes long.
Yes.
Was that a deliberate, like, because I there's a reason why an 88 minutes specifically as opposed to like 90 minutes is special in my mind. I'm curious if you were thinking the same thing or if it's coincidence.
Just total coincidence. Total
Okay.
coincidence is how it all landed.
So one of my director icons is Roger Corman, and he would very much insist on the edits of a film that he like produced but didn't direct himself being 88 minutes long, because an hour and a half is a very good runtime in terms of like people's attention span. Uh, and if a movie is 88 minutes long as opposed to like 89 or 89 or 90 minutes long, then that means that you can fit the film in 4 film canisters and you don't have to pay shipping for a 5th film canister.
That's really interesting. That's very interesting. Oh, cool. Funny with the film canister too. It's like save money. But yeah, I think that's like, I want more movies to be that length, like that kind of like tight feeling. And like I love when a
Mhm.
movie ends at the right moment. You're just like, yeah, like you're on a high. And sometimes it's like, oh, there's another scene, and there's the follow-up scene, and then there's a it's still going. And like, and kind of, I'm a big proponent of nice tight movies.
Yeah, yeah,
What
I
did you
agree.
watch Late Night with the Devil? Have you seen that movie?
Sorry, Late Night with the Devil, you said?
Yeah,
Yes, yes, I have seen that movie. I watched it on Shudder.
I loved it. AI art notwithstanding. Uh,
Yeah, that was a very odd choice to use just that tiny little bit that very much drew
weird
me out.
what a weird stain on the movie too, especially when you're thinking that it's like feels so 70s, and they've done such a good job of capturing that for them to like use something so.
Yeah,
But I still thought the movie was great. I thought it was like tight and fun, and it like had that. I think it was probably around 90 minutes. Uh,
probably. Yeah, I thought um both that and Baleful and a lot of movies that I really enjoy did a really good job of just being like, you're in it now. It started and we're hitting the ground running, and there isn't like we see the characters wake up, we get used to their daily routine or whatever. It's like, no, the weirdness or like the interesting part begins right away.
yeah, I love. You got it, man. You gotta get them right away.
Yeah. Late Night with the Devil is 93 minutes long, so a difference that doesn't really matter in the days of digital distribution, but
Yeah, still tight length. I think that's where it's at, man. I think I saw somewhere that if it's below 80 minutes, it's not people, distributors and sales agents will kind of raise an eyebrow.
yes, yeah, when I see a movie that's like 77 minutes long or something, I'm like, is this a short film that they padded out to make be a feature length, or is this like a feature film that they had to cut things from, or like what
Yep.
why is it this length? Whereas when I see that something's an hour and a half long, I go, that's a normal movie.
Yeah. And then 2 hours, it's like, this better be good.
Yeah, yeah. Once it starts getting to like, an hour and 50 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes or whatever, I'm like, okay, does this movie need to be this long? Or is it just this long because they didn't feel like trimming the fat? Uh
Why are so many films now are over 2 hours? And there seems to be a very online, especially, I see a very unified voice saying we don't want movies to be this long. And it seems like everyone I know is like movies are too long, and I'm not sure why movies have gotten to be regularly 2 to 2.5 hours.
I mean, honestly, I think that a large portion of it is just because they can, that there's
True.
no longer there like if you're getting people to watch a movie, um I know I'm in an unusual situation in that my local movie theater is a drive-in movie theater that shows double features. And
Cool.
so if I'm watching 2 movies and they're each an hour and a half long, that's very different from if I'm watching 2 movies and they're each 2.5 hours long.
Totally.
But if you're only watching one movie and it's an hour and a half long, or it's 2 hours long, or even 3 hours long, that's still like you're going out, it's a single evening, you're done before midnight, you're coming home. Um, or if you're like watching it on streaming or whatever, pause partway through. I think that there's no longer a concern for like, well, if it's an extra hour long, that means we need to, you know, ship an extra 3 shipping containers, that's going to cut down our margins on the film. And if we're going to ship this as part of a double feature, then we can't have it be that long because we need to fit the other movie in there. With those concerns out of the way, people don't feel the pressure to operate within those constraints, and so they experiment. And I predict that we will sort of see a splitting of things where we'll see movies that are intended as just like a standalone film experience that'll be an hour and a half long, and we'll see movies where people are like, this is my grand epic and it's going to be 3 hours long and it's going to be part one of a trilogy.
Yeah.
um
Interesting.
so
I mean, when it comes to certain filmmakers like Scorsese films, like make it 6 hours. I don't care.
yeah, I think that with like Dune and Megalopolis and whatever that cowboy movie that just came out that's part
Oh,
one of three.
Kevin Costner one.
Yeah, the Kevin Costner one. I think we're going to see movies like that be extremely long, but I think we'll see a return to uh, like I predict Marvel movies are going to start getting shorter, blockbusters and things.
I mean, Twisters just came out and it was over 2 hours and 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, I watched that last night, and
I saw it 2 nights ago as well.
yeah.
Did you
What did
like
you
it?
think?
I
W
Who's gonna go first here? Because
yeah, you
I
go first.
I really didn't like it at all. I didn't. I wanted to say it before you said you loved it, but I saw it in 40x, so my chair was shaking around. So we have this thing here called, I don't know if you have that in Colorado. Um,
I've been to those before, yeah.
it's silly, but like it's fun with the chair shaking. But I didn't love the movie. It felt like, honestly felt like an AI wrote it, and
Oh, wow.
it felt like an AI film. Like it felt like it was giving me had no soul. I didn't care about the characters, and the graphics didn't do much for me. Like it wasn't like the visual spectacle that doesn't impress me if I don't care about the characters.
Yeah.
And it just felt like kind of cheesy and cringy, and not in a good way. And it felt like it had like a for TV level cast outside of Glenn Powell.
Hmm.
Uh, like just like Helen Hunt's like she's a real person. Like she's a real actor. Like this new lead didn't have that Veritas or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I watched the original Twister earlier this week in preparation for watching the sequel. And the thing that stood out to me the most was the attitude that the two different movies took towards like the scientist characters.
Hmm.
That in the original movie, it was very much that sort of like optimistic science is going to save everybody 90s attitude, where like the protagonists were all scientists, the antagonists were also scientists, and the problem with them was that they were like trying to steal credit for an invention, but
Yeah,
everyone was still sort of well intentioned for the most part. um and and the scientists were very much the good guys. Whereas in the sequel, uh, the characters who are just like unambiguously scientists. I mean, there's the female lead, but then the other characters who are scientists are like in it for the money, and they're beholden to their investors,
yeah.
uh
It's like
and
the
then
Alabama roughnecks who like are the heroes, and she has to embrace her
yeah,
inner Alabaman to
yeah, the well,
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
Oklahoman, yeah. um
I mean, let's
and
be honest. The movie has a right wing tinge to it.
yeah, the idea
And
that like
you mentioned climate change, and then there's that one moment where the mom is like, "And my prices have gone up and up and up," and we're like, "Okay, we get what you're like hinting at here." It's just like it had, and then I don't know, I had a little bit of a too much, not a big right wing slant, but a little much for my comfort when it's about
yeah,
apocalyptic tornadoes. Like, they can't even reference it once. Like,
yeah, yeah, like the fact that they say like, oh, it's a once in a generation uh set of tornadoes, and every year is worse than the last. And I'm like, then in what sense is it once in a generation? Do you want to talk about these trends?
yeah,
No, you just don't. Okay. And making the heroes be the YouTubers was very much an of the moment thing, which
yeah,
I mean, like I liked that they made characters that were YouTubers, but making them be just like the heroes was an odd choice. And at the very end, they do lean into it a bit more of like, oh, okay, now, the scientist guy behaves ethically, but and it's just his real estate investor
Yeah,
guy who's the bad guy, which I mean, okay, that is an improvement. But also, oh my god, there was a repeated contrast between the idea of like, oh, we as scientists, we want to do this like unethical, selfish thing of successfully modeling how tornadoes form instead of doing the good and virtuous thing of like
stopping them. Yeah,
driving. Well, no, not stopping them, driving into town and yelling, "Everybody take shelter," as though the Oklahomans don't know that they're supposed to take shelter. Like
that
this
whole thing was like, we should be going to the town to help people, and it's
like
like, what
how?
are you doing in the town to help people? Like, you're just going in there, like, basically pushing them into a movie theater, and
Yeah, yeah, as though they're not already going to do that on their own.
yeah,
It's
that whole thing,
absolutely bizarre.
it's absolutely bizarre, and I didn't quite understand like they're just at a rodeo and it's like, oh my god, there's a big tornado coming. It felt like it just didn't feel like, does that really happen where like tornadoes just kind of come out of nowhere, left, right, and center, and do that? I don't know, like, it seemed a little bit unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a tornado scientist, so I don't know for sure, but I do get the impression that like, yeah, tornadoes can kind of come out of nowhere. But I don't know. Uh, and I did enjoy the experience of like watching it outdoors at the drive-in while it was raining. And
That'd
so
be,
yeah, and they made a
I also think that movies are so like, there is something to be said about two characters having sexual chemistry and sexual tension and payoff, and like they just delivered this in the most Disney Channel way in this movie, and it's like, show the characters having sex, have her like do it, or show us real chemistry, or like have something to say there other than this kind of like milk toast thing. Like, it's like, I like when characters have like a real chemistry and a real thing going, and maybe they could have had some more of that in this movie, and it just felt like they skirted by it, like it was like a wink to the audience, but not, they were afraid of kids seeing that or something. Like, it just felt very asexual, and I don't know why movies have gone that way. Like, we want to see villains, we want to see sex, we want to see carnage and death, and like, that's to me, like, I like to see extreme things and I like to feel things. So it's like this milk version of it didn't do it for me. I mean, to me, the movie's like a 4 out of 10.
Yeah. Say what you will about the writing and characters in Terrifier, they are not afraid to give us a villain.
No kidding. Yeah, really, gore in those movies are just insane.
Yeah. All right. Well, Deformed Lunchbox on YouTube and also all of the various social media things. Any last things you'd like to tell anyone before I stop recording?
Well, just thanks for having me, man. Thanks for giving me a chance on your podcast, and thanks for being the first person to watch.
Oh man,
Baleful.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm glad to have gotten to do so. Thanks for showing it to me.
No problem.